I am delighted today to be moderating this very exciting panel, our first panel for today. We're going to be discussing the power of data and integration. And then I have with me today joining, firstly, our long-standing partner, Validity, who have been working with Emarsys for so many years, working with our customers and helping us to drive the success of our customers. I'm also delighted to be joined by two customers, or two of our leading brands, who are working all the time on unlocking the sustainable growth by leveraging the Emarsys technology in what is a very challenging, yet an exciting market, an exciting landscape. When I say challenging, I think you've all heard us this morning, Silvana and Lisa, talking about the challenges and the unprecedented situation that as marketers we see ourselves in. And when I talk about the exciting landscape, I'm trying to look at the positive side of the story. Despite everything that we're mentioning, we know that our customers are still very happy to give us their data, as long as we are being very clear and very transparent about the way we use it. So we have a lot to unlock today. Without further ado, I would love to invite our customers and our partner over to stage. Please welcome Olivia, Jane, and William. Thank you for being with us today. I know you all had to work around other commitments to join us and speak to our partners, our customers in the community, the marketing community. I'd like to start maybe by just asking you maybe to introduce yourself and your roles. Maybe we could start with you, Olivia.
My name's Olivia Sutherland. I'm the CMO of Krispy Kreme Australia and New Zealand. I've been there about 4 years. What I love about my job is the variety. So I look after the design team, and that's everything from store uniforms to shop fit-outs to packaging, point of sale. I look after the product team, and I'm I'm a very open foodie. So when I get to go and they let me in the lab for the product team, I'm always trying to make my own donuts. I look after the marketing comms team, which is fantastic, and we are now in retail, but we're also in Coles, Woolies, 7-Eleven, more channels to be opening up soon. So lots of different sort of comms and shopper missions to understand there. And I also look after e-commerce and shopper marketing. So a good variety in my role.
Excellent. Jane?
Hi, I'm Jane Villeneuve. I am the Chief Growth Officer for Oroton. So the privilege that I have of having this role is that I get to help author the next chapter of this iconic Australian brand into the future of women's and men's in the future wardrobes around the country and hopefully internationally. I really look after everything from end to end on the customer journey, from a brand and marketing through digital, and of course everything is driven that we do by customer insights and data analytics.
Hi guys, my name is William, and I'm a regional director for Validity. If you're not familiar with us, Validity is a market leader in data management and in marketing efficiency optimization as well. Been with the company for 12 years now, hence the difference between the photo and the real person. That was taken 12 years ago. And I'm currently regional director for Validity. I'm responsible for the go-to-market strategy in the region and business operation as well. It's an honor to be invited by our partner Emarsys to be in this panel. Looking forward to a great conversation with you guys.
Thank you, William. Thank you, everyone. It's our honor to have you all joining us today. This is going to be an interesting panel because we have two brands from two different industries and we have a vendor. And I think we all heard this morning other thought leaders speaking about the state of the market, but I'd love to hear from you all about how do you see the current state of the market in Australia. Maybe we could start with you, Olivia.
Yeah, no problem. I think we've touched on it today, and I think my favourite word of the year is cosy living, cosy lives. It's definitely a tight discretionary spend market. Consumers don't have a lot of money. And I think we've lived with that probably for a year, and I think it will go into next year as well. There is a little bit of hope, I think, on the horizon. If you listen to the chief economists or the big banks, there is interest rate relief coming potentially next year. But I don't think consumers are going to bounce back and suddenly feel they've got lots of money. So I think whatever you're doing now to offer consumers that value, we're all going to have to keep doing it. And when I talk about value, I don't just mean price, and I think everyone in this room will know that. It's quality, it's experience, and we lean heavily in experience at Krispy Kreme. I think Lisa talked about the emotional connection to your brand. Our brand is all about sharing and celebrations. You know, it's your birthday, it's your baby shower, it's your key sporting moment, it's the end of year exams. So we've really leaned into those sort of joyful sharing experiences and really tried to sort of drive affinity with those occasions and offer sort of extra value in different ways.
We see very similar things within retail, you know, thinking around clothing, footwear, apparel. It's a very mixed outlook at the moment. There's some brands that are doing very, very well and some brands who really are not. And it's you know, it depends on which part of the market you're in and really the strength of your brand. Some of the things we're seeing, which I think are quite interesting though, is there's probably two things. One is consumers are being much more conscious. It's more, rather than being price sensitive, they're cost conscious is the way I would describe it. They're very, very conscious around what they are spending and what they get for their money. So to your point, Olivia, that value equation is really, really important. And so making sure you have a really great value proposition to your consumer is very important because they are making these decisions and they do have choice. And I think we have to remember that consumers have choice and they exercise their wallets with that choice. The other side, which for me and within Oroton and many other brands as well, which I see as a positive, is that cost consciousness applies to everything, but in some categories, luckily not as much in mine, many people are actually looking at how they save money to spend money. So they are looking very specifically, how do they save money on certain goods, utilities, etc., and not just to save it, but to actually reward themselves with these moments of joy. We've seen it with many people here, I know, working within the travel industry, so you would see it with the travel that is coming through, experiences, restaurants, like a beautiful restaurant like this, rewarding yourself, and we see it very clearly through buying things like a beautiful bag as a reward or some clothing as well, like for an event or an occasion to make you feel great. So we do see this kind of dichotomy where there's very conscious on cost and what they're spending to make sure they get the right value for money, and then rewarding themselves with these little moments and micro elements of joy.
Cool. Just build on Olivia, Jen, what you said about that. Definitely there is a lot nervousness in the market right now. We heard from Peter, I think from Bank of Queensland yesterday, the household disposable income has actually increased in the last couple of months, moving into the right direction positively. However, RBA keeps the interest rate high, so customers are still basically sit on their hand and to see which way the wind blows. Another thing I want to point out is, you know, the ABS latest report shows a 0.3% decrease month-on-month on household spending on goods and services as well. Another thing I want to point out is from a global landscape point of view, the US we are not alone, right? The US is in a very similar market trend as well, especially given the upcoming November election. God knows what happened after that. As well as I believe the UK government is about to release their new budget as well in a couple of weeks' time, and with potential tax increase as well. So again, it's a lot uncertainty in the market right now, and force consumers to see and wait and see what happens.
Okay, I mean, very, very interesting. I think just to quickly recap, consumers are more conscious, they're also more empowered, and obviously with the rise of AI and technology, brands have the ability to go and like reach your consumers, and you need to differentiate. And I think what Olivia also said around going beyond the transaction into building the emotional relationship is very valuable in such a challenging market. I'd like to maybe, you know, in a market, obviously, when the market is shifting, priorities shift for brands, right? So maybe staying with you, William, you work with brands, and we see how customers or brands that we engage with are always shifting their priorities. So I'd love to hear your view on how do you see these priorities shifting over the last 2 years, and how brands are focusing on continuing to drive the revenue growth.
We just talked about the consumer spending, but also business spending are decreasing month by month as well in the last 12 months, 18 to 12 months. The impression I get from a lot of the sales and customer conversation I had with is, as a tech vendor, we need to work much harder now to win business and also retain customer. And where in the past the market decision was made within the marketing department and CRM department. And nowadays, the CFOs, even the CEOs, are regularly involved into making those decisions, right? And we used to think 5 to 10 times return on investment, pretty good, it's enough. But these days, we need to be 10 to 15 times as bare minimum to even have a business case. So that's, as a business, we definitely need to focus more on building a stronger and more robust ROI stories.
So that's a good view, but maybe we could get the view from you, Olivia.
So our business focus in the last couple of years has really been in the middle of the P&L, coming out of COVID, rising labour costs, rising cost of goods, rising logistics, rising rents. So we've really doubled down and done a lot of productivity in the middle, just to control those costs. Because yes, we can pass costs on to consumer, but your brand is only worth so much, and I never like to overuse the price. So we've deliberately focused on the middle of the P&L, but to drive revenue, we've also taken our product to more points of access. We are a joyful, fun product. We've got really cult-like following for Krispy Kreme. Even now when we open a store, people sleep overnight. And it still blows my mind. I'm like, really? And you win a year's free supply of donuts, but really? Like, that's crazy, right? So we've got this really, amazing brand where people just seem to love it. So what we've really leaned into is making it more available. We've only got 47 of our own stores, which is great, and we run them all ourselves, so much autonomy and flexibility, and you can turn things on tomorrow. It's brilliant. But we're also now available in 700 7-Elevens, 780 actually, 7-Elevens, 400 Woolworths, 200 Coles, so actually just being more accessible has really helped us grow our revenue.
Brilliant. I think the follower, obviously the volume of followers is very obviously obvious with a brand like Krispy Kreme, and knowing your brand, the strength of your brand, and able to actually capitalize on this by going and opening up the additional channels, increasing access. So that's really great. With Oroton, Jane?
I feel like we're the anomaly here, because we have a very clear focus. We had a very clear focus for the last 3 years, and we continue that. And we're doubling down on our focus. We are actually, where people are cutting costs and reducing marketing, we're investing. We are increasing our spend. We are being smart about where we spend it, and we're really focusing on our brand. One of the things that we do to focus, one of our strategic principles is really around making sure that our product is the best possible product for the best possible price. So we invest a lot of time with our design team, really spends a lot of time in not only designing the right product, but looking at the quality and at the price, and also how it makes a woman feel. So it's really, really important that it's to that emotional point that Lisa spoke to earlier. Like, how do you make your product can make people feel a certain way as well? Not just your brand, it's one of those pieces, particularly in what we do. So how that makes a woman feel every day when she either picks up a bag or steps into a piece of our apparel is really important. And we listen to consumers and we double down on this area. So where we're using different elements of data and analytics, it's really to drive greater opportunity and look at expansion. And so we're in a real growth set at the moment where many of our competitors are actually in decline. So we're taking advantage of that, of spending our way into a space where they are spending their way out downwards and out of something.
So a lot about expansion and additional channels, which takes me nicely into my next question. I'm going to stay with you, Jane, and ask you about, you cannot expand without the use of data and technology, so you need those insights. How do you leverage data and technology when it comes to continuing to build your brand strategy?
So it's a really timely question, because we're right in the middle of looking at our brand strategy and revising it and evolving it for the future, which is why I said at the beginning that I'm really privileged to have this moment and opportunity to author the next chapter of our brand. So we're going through a process at the moment to really, to that point, to really understand the emotional connection that we have with people a lot deeper. And we're doing a number of elements. So we started out actually first listening to our customers, and really first with data. So we started looking at all of our data, understanding and clustering our data into different segments and understanding their behaviour. And then we went to those customers and we started to survey them, to actually ask them about what their attitudes are. And we've moved into qual at the moment to really listen even further and deeper with our customers. But at each of these points as well, what we do is we triangulate it with different data points, whether it be things like NPS, actual data coming out and understanding customer movements within segments. Is it that we're attracting a lot of new time customers? And if so, why? Let's go and ask those customers why they just come for the first time? Or do we have a really great loyal base of customers? So we're using our data to navigate our way through and really connect all of our qual and quant work together and all of our analytics. And we will come through in a few months and actually just revise a little bit of the positioning and kind of re-come back to market.
Very smart. Olivia?
I love what you said about triangulating your data. I always have quite a gestalt approach where I kind of take a bit from there, a bit of economy, a bit of, someone talked to me in a shop, and I kind of create a story. And I think that's just so important, because what I see a lot of people is just, they're in the hard data, but I think you need the soft data too, that sort of insight. And I'll give you an example. We have lots of light users, 1.2 times a year. They buy for birthdays. That's great. We've been marketing that for a long time, but I want them to buy another time, another celebration in their life. And we were watching our traffic, and we can understand, thanks to Emarsys, we can understand our level of, one-time buyers. So we're like, we need to unlock our win-back programs, which you've helped us with, and, talk to them on their birthday, or talk to them on, an anniversary, or send them just a, haven't seen you for a while, how you going, or it's Friday night movie night. And we've really seen success in using that, the one-time buyers, but connecting it with hearing people in store coming in and saying, oh, I just need a 12-pack for movie night, or it's my son's final for cricket and I need 24 donuts. So just trying to marry that hard and soft data together to actually kind of create that second purchase and drive that frequency for the brand.
I love the focus on the hard and soft data. And we've been doing a lot with Krispy Kreme around building these personalized experiences. So I have a question for you, William. From a vendor to vendor, we are talking about implementations in data and technology. And one thing that always comes to mind is the relationship between marketing and IT. Whenever there's any sort of project or any transformation. Okay, I see this is interesting for many people. I can see everyone is engaging with this. So I'd love to know more about your experience, obviously working with customers, especially navigating the relationship between marketing and IT to complete a data project and integration.
Love the question. We all love IT, right? Okay, so in theory, right, people assume IT, marketing always love each other, work very closely, magically. But in practice, it's not always the case, sometimes even opposite. And they can operate in a very separate silos with very little communication. I'm speaking from a marketing point of view, dealing with full house of marketers today. A couple of things I've learned in the past. The first one is we need to make sure, all right, the marketers, the IT and marketing, both of them get involved into a conversation much earlier, in the pre-sales conversation, in the scoping conversation. So when we ask IT to do something, right, it's not informed in the last minute, and when it's become a critical obstacle. Secondly, we shouldn't assume that what we think is simple is actually the case. I won't bore you with too many technology terms, but for example, we might say, we just need to update the DNS to implement DMARC. However, it's not as simple as that, right? In reality, it's a whole change control process. We need to make sure the results will be secured beforehand, and also we need to make sure the monitoring and the testing will be carried out as well. And lastly, I would suggest we need to make it a win-win for both IT and marketing. In other words, we need to make what we need also attractive to IT. So for example, if these days someone at IT might spend half a day to dealing with deliverability or data hygiene issue, if they can help us with what we asked, it's reduced to 15 minutes, then it's create that win-win scenario, and also we can have more collaboration between two functions.
Excellent, thank you, William. So I'm going to go back to you, Olivia. We spoke about data and integration. You've got the data now, the hard data, the soft data. What role does data play in your decision-making process?
Yeah, foundational. I'm very much a believer in stopping and thinking, where are we now? And how you develop your where are you now is by looking at your data, hard and soft. So I'll give an example. We use Emarsys in our online delivery, and we were seeing lots of people coming in, lots of good website traffic, and then people just dropping out when they actually realised that they couldn't get their donuts today. They had to wait for tomorrow. Fair enough. It's quite an impulsive category. Fancy a donut, you want it now. So we sort of looked at our cart dropout, and we realised that we really had to open up on demand. So through the support we've had with the Emarsys, we've now actually managed to trial on demand last week, and it has blown the socks off the business case. Phew. And we're going national with it next year, but we might try and speed it up. I want to speed it up, but marketeers always in a hurry, right? But just having that sort of insight and that data to be able to actually create a strategy and then get results in about 12 weeks, I love. It makes it exciting. It's consumer-centric. I think, again, Lisa, you talked about consumer-centric. Consumers do want their donuts now. No one wants to wait. So by having that tangible point on the shopping journey where consumers are dropping out, we could build a business case.
Absolutely.
So fundamental.
Definitely. I'm definitely not waiting 24 hours to get my Krispy Kremes. Jane, do you see this differently?
I think there are probably a lot of similar things. So I also think data is really foundational in decision making. I think that what it does is it creates objective conversations as well. So culturally within organisations, you can have a more objective conversation. I nicknamed, at a previous company I was at, I nicknamed it sample size of one when people give you an opinion, and I made it a bit of a mission to get rid of sample size of one. So that's my little trademark of why to use data. But I think that's really important, because otherwise you have these very subjective conversations and it's very hard to align around decision, and often data can just make some of those conversations very, very simple and very easy. For example, we recently were looking at an online sale, and we were looking at different ways that we might communicate in our messaging hierarchy, and it was getting very complicated. There was a members version, a non-members version, and I said, well, do we understand how many people are actually, what's coming to our site, and if they have an aversion to actually signing in and becoming a member, and if they have an aversion to it, then maybe, okay, we'll have a look at that sort of data and understand if there is a big problem there, and maybe we do need to have these multiple messages. And if not, why don't we just encourage people to simply sign in so they can see the member's price? And we found that 0.05% of people ever checked out as a guest, and the decision was made. It was very, very simple. So really what we did was, so data can really help to be simple, to be focused, and align people around simple decision making sometimes, and take some of that subjectivity out of it and just create focus.
Brilliant. I love the fact that data is usually perceived as the more data, the more complex things are going to get, but using it to actually really simplify what you do goes a long way.
It can be like that too.
Let's talk about Emarsys and Validity. We've been working together for years. Can you maybe share a bit more about the power of Emarsys and Validity combined?
Of course. I'm actually not surprised about how much the partnership have grown in the last 3-4 years, and how successful the partnership is right now between two companies. I view that as two market leaders join the force and provide deliverability expertise and best-in-class service, as well as creating that happy customer and vendor relationship. And by providing the best-in-class email deliverability service, as well as maximize the return investment of our mutual customer. And the mutual Validity and average customer enjoying averagely about 99.2% average inbox rate, while the benchmark globally is about 85%. That also translates into better engagement, including open, cleared, and conversions as well. So, and also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe globally we have about 70 mutual customers.
Yeah,
about 20 of them in APAC, in this region. So I want to highlight one of your customers who recently on board with Emarsys, Crossway, which is an online furniture store from Asia, right? They have been a Validity customer for a couple of years, and they migrated to Emarsys from another email service providers, and you guys equip them with a dedicated IP address, so they can apply our certification program. And the email migration ramp up went really, really well, and there's no issue with deliverability at all, and the customer was very happy with our result. So again, that's just one example of how the partnership can really help our joint customer to achieve the best-in-class email performance, as well maximize their return on investment.
Thank you for sharing this, William. We love working with you, and definitely, with a partner that understands the importance of data quality and delivery in executing on a successful marketing strategy. I've been told I have 3 minutes left, but I have one final question for each one of you. If you were given the power to change one thing about the industry, I'm going to start with you, Jane. What would it be? What would you change?
I think it comes back to that idea of sample size of one. Data is great, and I think it's really important, but it needs to be insightful. And I think that if you can't build an insight out of the data, it's actually quite meaningless, and it often becomes weaponized within businesses. So it's really important to listen to the customer at the right moments and build those tools, and then to actually take the time to yourself and with your teams to actually understand and train them how to find the insight. What is it telling us about that human behavior that we want to influence as marketers, as brand people, across different categories, but we really want to influence different behavior, and we need to listen and find the insight that is going to help us to change that behavior over time, and I think that's probably the key thing.
I love this. Very powerful. Olivia.
Absolutely. Love that response. I'm scrambling around now for something different. But no, it's all right. In the same vein, what I feel is, I've been in marketing a long time. The types of data has changed. I have a chatbot on my customer care line that answers the top 10 questions now. There's many different social media channels that require different types of content. Technology has changed so much, but what I just hope is that we never lose the human connectivity. There's something very special about having a connection with another person and, being in a community and feeling part of, I'm definitely going to be in the Oroton handbag community after this. But there's something very important in being in a community, and Krispy Kreme, yeah. And I just don't want that to get lost. So even it's as simple as when I order my Maccas through my Maccas app, I love when I go to pick it up and they say, "Thanks, Olivia." I just love that. I just don't want to lose that sort of human element as the world continues to evolve with technology.
Love it. William?
Only one thing?
For now.
For now, okay, sure. So you have to summarize in one thing. I wish company can future-proof their email program. So what I mean by that is, ISPs or mailbox providers change the requirement all the time, right? We have Apple MPP a couple of years ago. We have the new Yahoo, Google sending requirement earlier this year. And every time the standard response was panicked because they are belated to adopt all these requirements. So it would be nice if company can proactively put themselves in the front foot and by preparing themselves for the next big thing. I have 10 next big things, but I just say one. We talked about AI a lot today, right? Or in the last couple of days. And the AI, and give example, so Apple in their latest iOS 18, they released something called Apple Intelligence. So described to be a personal intelligence system to help you to work, to communicate, and express yourself. But as part of that, Apple Intelligence will also categorize your email and put them into a different tab in their new Apple Mail tab, based on using a AI technology, and based on not just email content, but also your sending behavior, your customer engagement behavior, as well as many of other non-email behavior as well. So personalization becomes more important than ever. It's not like we have to use AI, it's AI is forcing us to do more. So understand your customer, tailor your email content so it can be really viewed by your customer and get better result. Thank you. Sorry, I know it's a bit too long.
One is perfect, I think, for now. There seem to be more, but we're going to have some drinks later on and talk about them. More AI or more human-to-human relationships? Would love to hear more when we come to the networking opportunity later on, what you think of this. Definitely, I think having and keeping, I love what you all said around the understanding consumers and keeping the human-to-human relationship, to keep these like the trust and authenticity when it comes to building these emotional relationships that we spoke about. So a really good topic to discuss later. We're going to end for now, and thank you very much again for being part of this panel, and thank you everyone for listening to us.